Do you know this feeling? The unclip of shame. Pulling up somewhere and just not getting that track stand right, popping over to the side, and of course, your friends are there to see you. Dave here from MTB Biking, and today I'm going to take you from Irish Dancer to Trackstand Pro. Let's go! From a rolling start, the first thing you're going to want to do is engage those brakes, turn that front wheel to the side, and allow the bike to move around nice and freely underneath you. Next up, keep a nice consistent pressure in those pedals. Thirdly, you want to allow that bike to move freely around underneath you. Let that front wheel tilt from side to side, it's going to make it a lot easier. And lastly, it's about where you're looking. Make sure that you're looking at a nice focal point and not all over the show everywhere. This skill requires a lot of practice, so find somewhere comfortable and low risk that you can practice a whole bunch of times. Nice green grass is always better than a dirt now. So, why should you even be practicing your track stand, you ask? Well, it's got a bunch of applications. Firstly, you're going to get to enjoy the stuff on the trail side. But remember those switchbacks that you always feel like you're about to tip over? Yep, it's because you're not practicing your track stand. Get to practicing. Do you struggle to lift that rear wheel? Know this feeling all too well of crying on the inside with your mates looking on with a big old ooh. Yeah, well, Dave here from MTB Biking, and I'm going to teach you how to lift that rear wheel in 60 seconds or less. Let's go. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you're standing for this technique. If you're sitting, you're going to blow those rims apart. Make sure that you're standing. Next up, you can use your body weight. Your body weight is going to do most of the work in this technique. So project it upwards and forwards, and that's where you're going to generate your height. Next up, footwork. Tilt those feet forward and sweep that back wheel up in underneath you. The last thing you want to do for this technique is roll those wrists forward and push that bike forward. This creates friction into the pedals, allowing you to get that back wheel up underneath you. Now, it's about timing. Find yourself a nice big log. Maybe not that big. Something more along the lines of this. Something you can pop down in a road or a trail and just use to practice your timing. Get that back wheel as high as possible. If you're still on the struggle bus and can't get that back wheel up just yet, all you want to do is minimize the damage. Compress your weight down and shoot your weight up and forward. Lift those legs up into you to minimize damaging your rim. Do you know this feeling? The triathlon of shame. Feeling insecure, having to look over your shoulder every time you have to bunny hop and still not getting it right? Dave here from MTB Biking, and today I'm going to take you from Bunnyhop Barry to Bunnyhop Giga Chat. Let's go. Firstly, drop your chest down, shift your weight back, and use your body to leverage that front wheel up. Next, make sure that you're pulling with straight arms to get that front wheel to its maximum highest point. Thirdly, tilt those feet forward, sweep that back wheel up and into you, and absorb the bike as it comes up underneath you. Now it's about wrist work. Roll those wrists forward, push the bike forward, creating friction into the pedals to help get that back wheel up. Lastly, you're going to want to find a trailside buddy. Something you can use as a marker, pop it down, and practice maximizing your height, generating as much height as possible while bunny hopping. Sometimes, you don't even need a trailside buddy. You just need a real buddy. And they're great incentives to bunny hop a little higher and lock in your technique. Why even learn to bunny hop, you ask? Well, it's great to get over obstacles on the trail, and it's a precursor to its bigger cousin jumping. No buddies were harmed in the making of this film. Bunny hopping in 60 seconds. Hey mountain bikers, have you experienced this feeling before? The pancake of shame. Getting left as an undercooked splattered mess for your friends to clean, and just not getting that endo as high as possible, getting really technical about it, but still not quite seeming to get it right? Worry not, Dave here from MTB Biking, and today I'm going to teach you how to endo. First up, compress your body down, preload it like a spring, ready to explode your momentum upwards. Next up, unload that spring and shoot your weight forward with straight arms. You're going to be arcing around your front wheel for this technique. Thirdly, as you arc and shoot your momentum forward, grab that front brake to help get that back wheel up. Next, you want to bend your legs into this technique. You want to keep a good core body tension as you're arcing over the front wheel. And lastly, it's about finding that balance point. It's going to be a very tight line between going OTB and dropping the back wheel. Remember that letting off the front brake drops the back wheel. And if you do go OTB, try to get your legs around the handlebars. Hard surfaces are not your ally for this technique. Grass is a much better companion to practice on. How to endo in 60 seconds and gain you some street cred with your friends. Do you know this feeling of being a loop out Larry, your heart beating at 1,000 beats per minute as you tip over backwards? Fear not, Dave here from MTB Biking, and today I'm going to teach you how to avoid looping out and learn to wheelie in 60 seconds. Let's go! The first thing you're going to want to do is get those pedals into a pedal kick position, ready to put power through those pedals. Next up, drop your chest down and explode it backwards at the same time you're putting the power through those pedals to get that front wheel up. Thirdly, it's crucial that you pull with straight arms to get your front wheel up into that balance point. Once you're there, it's understanding that a combination of your pedals and your brakes will keep you within that balance point. Lastly, it's very important of where you're looking. Make sure you're looking ahead and not straight down, otherwise that'll drop that front wheel down. Next up is finding an appropriate place to practice this technique. I wouldn't suggest somewhere rough, otherwise you're going to have a horrible time finding that balance point. I would suggest somewhere nice and flat. It makes your life a lot easier, especially while trying to find that balance point. A parking lot often works great. I would suggest using flat pedals for this technique while practicing, so do as I say and not as I do. Next up, you want to drop the saddle down, not all the way, it helps with finding the balance point. And lastly, a nice intermediate gear is going to help you get that front wheel. If you do end up looping out, get those legs out sideways and back. Do you struggle to keep it up? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Do you struggle to keep that front wheel up, or know this feeling of your heart almost bursting through your chest as you loop out backwards? Dave here from MTB Biking, and today I'm going to teach you how to manual in 60 seconds. Let's go. First up, this technique is done from a standing position. Drop your chest down, shift your weight back, and use your body to leverage and get that front wheel up. Next up, make sure that you're pulling with straight arms. Very important when getting that front wheel up. Thirdly, you want to find yourself a little trailside buddy, someone you can use as a marker. Now it's about progression. Start small and build your way up until you find and get up to that balance point. Once you've found the balance point, it's understanding that your rear brake and hip movement in and out is what's going to keep you within that balance range. Lastly, it's about where you're looking. Make sure you're looking ahead and not straight down at your front wheel. Don't be bending your arms and pulling them in either. That'll drop your front wheel straight down. Find yourself somewhere safe to go practice this technique. I wouldn't recommend somewhere rough. You're going to have a hard time maintaining that balance point. A nice big open space often works great. I don't recommend learning in clips for this technique, but do as I say, not as I do. If you do loop out, get your feet out sideways and backwards.